Can you hear me?
Why, of course I can. Good morning.
Hold on a second. I gotta close these books. I've been reading books. What kind of books? What kind of books? Yeah. Radio tube books. Who? Radio tubes. Oh. Fascinating reading. Yeah, there's a guy from Kentucky in there too, you know.
Howdy, howdy. This is KC9VKV near Louisville. Stan, what kind of tubes you studying there?
Oh, just tube specs. Just tube characteristics. Looking up some old audio tubes.
Oh, Roger. I'm just curious what tube it was. Was it like a 12X7 or something?
Well, actually, I was reading on. I was reading up on power amplifier in general. Actually, just trying to find some comparable characteristics between high power pentos and low power pentos. Just doing some research. And old radio tube books.
Roger. Were you working on building a modulator or something like that?
No, I just doing this research for my own knowledge here.
Roger. Well, my favorite on those is a 6L6 and the military version of that, which I forget the numbers, but they as far as 4 of those will make a good 50-watt amp.
Oh, for a radio transmitter, yeah. Well, I worked on HF. Okay. I guess there's a lot of capacitance. May not get to 10 meters, but with 4 tubes. But I don't know, maybe. But that's a lot of effort. You're better off just putting in one 6146 and save yourself some space.
Oh, Roger. Yeah, I was thinking more like an audio amp, I guess. I had a what would be a Scully lathe disc cutter, and they used a 50 amp power amp to drive the cutter head, Roger.
Oh, for records.
Yeah, Roger.
Is it in your neck of the woods here? They got the last direct cutter for direct to vinyl.
Oh gosh, I don't know. Radio stations used those before tape came along.
Yeah, someone was telling me, I don't know, it was my wife or whatever. She said that the last direct, sound to vinyl cutter was in Nashville. At least the one in Search.
Oh yeah, well, analog vinyl is not dead by any means. It's actually having a renaissance at this time.
Oh yeah, I get that. I'm just talking about cutting vinyl, master vinyls. There's only one place supposedly doing that.
Roger, that could be. I doubt that though. I think in Nashville there would be more than that, perhaps. But nothing like I recall going to Nashville to have some stuff mastered out, and it is a really an experience. The capabilities that they have to take a mixed master and reprocess it to some degree as necessary to get it absolutely perfecto for the vinyl master.
Yeah, it seems like that's, you know, I guess you gotta, well, if you get it right, it comes out the best, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. This usually it is a matter of adding some upper equalization to really make the sonically sound like silk. You know, the top end to sound like more silk than what you would actually realize, Roger.
Roger. Yeah, so there's some pre-emphasis on the highs, so not necessarily a de-emphasis. Well, they do that anyway in records, you know, pre-emphasis and de-emphasis, right?
Oh yeah, there's a EQ variable EQ on the cutter. As it cuts closer to the middle, it adds high frequency equalization to make it, as it tracks from the outside to the inside, there's a natural roll-off on the top end as it goes into the inside, so they add high-end EQ to compensate for that.
Okay, a tracking EQ device, well, that makes perfect sense, because, you know, you're traveling a lot less distance at the center of the album than you are around the edge.
That's a Roger. Yeah, there you have a lot more velocity on the outer edges than you do on the inside. So, you know, you will have that tendency to lose frequency response with the lack of turn RPM footage, so to speak, underneath the cutter head. But this was a homebrew amp that the whole thing was came out of Louisiana, I think, and a 16-inch turntable with a I swear that motor must have been like a half horsepower motor. I mean, they wanted that turntable to move, and it had you know, a jobber that tracked on the top that would to spiral the Audex cutter head, you know, to the middle, and they didn't want any drag, so you know, they had a really beautiful motor that very powerful, that would ensure that the turntable ran at the right speed regardless of almost the torque that might you know, prevail in that situation.
Yeah, right. You don't want any chatter or anything like that, or any you want that motor to drive through that like it's not there.
Roger. Now they had special provisions. They would mainly would not stop the turntable as they were creating a vinyl master. There would be like 10 seconds of leader between cuts, and during that time they would spiral the you know, the grooves, so you would have groove variances between the cuts that you could see, cut 1, cut 2, cut 3, whatever, you know. Whereas when I did it, I would power down the turntable between cuts, and so what would happen is you would have this little kind of a little white noise between cuts as it went to 0 speed, and then it came back up again.
A little grinding, a little burst of noise. I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Can you copy WA6VT?
Roger, I'm copying through the San Francisco SDR.
Oh, okay. So I saw, you know, a lot of these old movies from the 30s and stuff, they show at stations or for broadcasts that they start the cut in the center of the record and move it out to the outside. What is with that?
Well, that was another possibility. A lot of the radio stations would cut from the inside out, and it was just you know, just a preference that you know, that's what they did. But you know, by and large, obviously you track from the outside in.
Right in. It just seems like eventually all settled on one standard. Well, I think maybe they were trying to differentiate radio station copies from from commercial copies.
No, not at all. It's just the preference of the engineer at the time. That both were capabilities and possibilities, and there was no actual standard as such, you know. So they just did what they wanted to do.
You know, I've had 2 albums pressed, 3, and but 2 of my own, and I did it up at Fantasy Records, and they. You can get an LP can carry up to 27 kilohertz.
Oh yeah, roger that. We had 3 also mastered down in Nashville, and we were using DVX noise encodes, and those are, you know, I'm sure you're familiar with what that is, and you know, all things being equal in the creeks don't rise, it always works out that what goes in you get back. But not necessarily. Sometimes it takes just a little tweak on the far side of the decoder to you know, to bring up the top end just a tad.
My second album, my first one was kind of weak, wimpy sounding. So I wanted them to cut. I went up there to Fantasy and sat there with George Horn. And I said, I want you to cut just as it starts to have tracking error. I said, I want it to have tracking error in the cut, so that it'll have like this like a compression type sound from the disc itself. And we did that, and it worked. That's weird.
Well, they have a lot of capabilities in their mastering equipment, you know, to do things like that. And obviously he had that piece of equipment to give you what you wanted, and did it manually as the cut went down.
Yeah, that's right. It was, I wanted the record to be loud. I also wanted that sound, because I'd heard records that had that hot cut to it, and some records, I had a Grace cartridge, and I tested them with that. But some, you know, it sort of added to this sort of grinding sound that I was looking for. It's a fiddle record, bluegrass fiddle record.
Roger. The main thing is after you get the test pressing that it is, you know, the album is what you were looking for, Roger.
Yeah, because I had heard it on another record. I don't know if you heard of Bill Monroe before, but his fiddle player, Kenny Baker, was my mentor. And he did a record called Frost on the Pumpkin, and it just is really overdriven. And that's the best-selling record he ever had. And this was largely because of the huge sound, you know. And so you not use a lot of compression, but you also compress at the record level because the record was red hot.
Roger. This must be WA6DTV, Jim. Roger?
Yeah, Jim, WA6DTV.
Roger. This is Jim around Louisville. Good morning.
Oh, yeah, right. Louisville, that's right. Yeah. What's the name again in Louisville?
Jim. Juliet, India, Mike.
I just looked at it. Okay, we got, this is Jim Knight. That's K9 Charlie Kilo Victor, right?
KC9 Victor Kilo Victor, Roger.
Kilo Victor Kilo, what? KC9?
Yeah, Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor.
Okay. Victor Kilo Victor.
Roger. You guys are sounding real great through the San Francisco SDR.
Yeah, we're about 30 to 50 miles away. So the short skip's working.
Roger. That's a Half Moon, or what's that place called?
Half Moon Bay.
Yeah, Half Moon Bay, man. I understand that's out in the middle of nowhere, so they have no noise.
Well, it's on the ocean. Yeah, they have, that's where they have some of the biggest surf in North America at Mavericks, right around the corner. Surfers go there and they ride these 50-foot wave. Well, I don't know if they're 50-foot, but they're big.
Roger. Well, that SDR is doing a heck of a job. You know, I don't know what it is, but what would you say, Stan? What am I giving you right now? What do you think?
Well, on my receiver?
Yeah, what kind of signal strength am I giving you now?
You're about an S8.
Roger. I don't know what it is, but coming back, I'm getting you guys about a dB or 2 dB above my noise, or just right at my noise level. Roger?
Roger? Yeah, well, you got more lightning static than we do. It's pretty quiet here tonight. So let me ask you another question here. All right, what kind of compressors did you use? Were you involved in recording also?
Roger. I tell you what, my favorite piece of equipment was El Cheapo Compander. And I used it to take, basically we would take stereo rhythm tracks, in the beginning, stereo rhythm tracks, and I would use that Compander as on the limiting side, or as the the compression side, barely, just to fatten the track up. And then if I overshot with it, I could put it on the expansion side and bring it back exactly where I wanted it.
What year was that?
What type was it?
What year? Was it in the 1960s or?
Oh no, 70s. Primarily, music was in the 79, right in through there. For about 5 or 6 years, we did quite a bit of music, and then basically the studio was a broadcast-oriented studio for doing commercials and stuff.
Okay, just because there's an evolution of equipment that happened, starting with like the LA2A and then moving forward.
Actually, this was a DBX 119 Compander.
DBX 119?
Roger. It's not a quote professional piece of gear, but it did a great job as far as limiter. You could set it up as a limiter, and then particularly for taking tracks. And if you got too limited, you would use that in the expansion mode to bring back the whatever dynamics that you wanted on playback.
So you use this with music?
I'll repeat.
Is this with music or voice or what?
Oh yeah, music. And we primarily use that in the rhythm tracks, the very first tracks, bass, drums, guitar.
I have 1, 2, 3 dB units, but they're just absolute trash sounding. You can pay $1,000 for them, but they're not really. They sound like they're inside of a tunnel, but they're good for things like basses. They're really great for basses.
Well, what is the deal? What is it? Is it a Compander or what is it?
It's a compressor.
Oh, roger that. I never used compression that much. A Compander is more like a limiter, although you do have a compression ratio that you can set up. But I always like to fatten up through limiting versus compression, because compression you're getting your activity sucking up from the bottom, whereas limiting you're taking it off the top.
Yeah, right. That's basically the same circuit. It's just you have multi-stages, and so if you limit it, which I just got through building a limiter, optical limiter. Those, you put it from, it's pretty much the same thing as a compressor, and it's just at different ratios it's called a compressor, and other ratios it's called and also there might be double steps in it, double knees. But I think when you think about a Compander, that's like an expander, right? It's like a noise gate with, I have a couple of drummers, I have a couple of noise gates, and that makes so that the difference between loud and quiet is greater.
Right. Well, a Compander can go either way. It can expand or reduce. So in the compression or limiting side, that's one thing. But to be able to just move the dial over to the same on playback to the same thing as you had on record, but expansion, it'll bring the dynamics right back to where it was. If you feel like you have compromised the dynamics of the track, you can just simply go to the expansion side and bring the dynamics back.
Yeah, well, that has been employed in communications. They compand the signal to the signal to noise ratio, and then you re-expand it, and it goes back to normal. Why not use it for music?
Roger. Well, that's what DBX does. They compress, but DBX is more volatile than just dynamics. It also is doing a frequency jobber with tremendous top-end boost and compression on the record side, and then on playback it bends it back just the opposite, and that way you bypass any track noise that you might have between the in and the out. Yeah, right. Supposed to reduce that noise. Well, anyway, I don't see why you couldn't use it just one on that thing. That San Francisco SDR went crazy, and it was just going yeah.
Oh yeah, well, it's probably overloaded. How many people are listening here on this frequency right now?
Gosh, I don't know. It's I've got, actually my normal computer's in the shop, and I'm using a secondary computer that's across the room and taking audio off of it, so I can't really see the screen on that one, Roger.
Okay, well, usually on the screen you can see all the call signs lined up over the frequency of people listening.
Oh, Roger. Well, the last time we talked, I think I was, I could see 43. It said 43 was using the San Francisco SDR.
43 people were using it all at once?
Oh, Roger. Quite a popular SDR.
Yeah, it is. It works good. It picks up China.
I don't think I could make China direct. I'd have to figure out a different way of doing that.
Yeah, we pick up weird noises on here, like some sort of over-the-horizon radar and some kind of data stuff, and they come in on the SDR. Well, actually, yeah.
I remember the first time I tried to talk to you, Stan, out there, and I had the SDR computer over there with the speaker up, and when everything went cool except when I tried to talk, and I was getting this half-second latency coming back, and I mean, you just can't talk without it. You go, well, you can't make the words make sense,
Yeah. Once in a while it kind of goes goofy. Usually when it's got a lot of people on it. But it's pretty amazing how many stations, you can just tune around and they're all right there.
Roger, I guess those are just for receiving. I guess that ham remote is where you can actually access the transmitter, Roger.
Yeah, KJ6I or AI6J, I forget. Monterey has a remote. It works pretty good.
Roger. Well, I figure, I'm doing California, so that's about as far west, unless you start looking at Hawaii or something like that.
Yeah, right. You're pretty as far west as you can go without going to Alaska or Canada, maybe.
Where'd Jim go?
I'm right here. I was just looking on the web for appliances. I could use a new stove. Get an oven stove or something.
You got a stovetop or a combination?
Yeah, stove top and then oven underneath.
You know, you don't have natural gas. You got to do electric, right?
Yeah, electric.
No. That's too bad. Well, you know, you can save one of those electric burners on there for a dummy load for your amplifier.
I heard about that.
Yeah, I use it on mine.
I think you could probably take one of those shop lights, not the fluorescent jobs, but those 500 watt or what kilowatt tungsten lights, and use those as dummy load.
Dummy load. Yeah, my problem with a light bulb is that the impedance varies, with the brightness. But it may not be that much. I used to do that, but I didn't have a 500 watt. Well, this thing will handle 1,000 watts, so it's pretty handy.
I guess you could use a space heater.
Oh, it's one of the. I suppose you could use a space heater too, huh? Okay. The nice thing about these stove coils is they're fairly small, and they make a pretty good dummy load.
Oh, I see. Just the burner, the circular burner part, Roger.
Roger. Say again?
Just the circular burner part of the stove.
The stove. Yeah, the part that gets red hot. Yeah, that's the little ones. The small burners are like 44 ohms, and the big burners are 22 ohms. So, 44 ohms isn't that far away from 50 for testing purposes.
Roger, but I'm sure that ohmage would shift as you put a kilowatt in. It would. I doubt it would continue to be 40 ohms. Would you think?
You think? Well, maybe if it gets red hot, but yeah, if it drifts, it'll probably drift upward closer to 50. It'd be interesting to test it. Put some voltage on it and just measure it and see what how it varies with temperature. But yeah, I didn't really care. I guess it's a lot like a slow-acting light bulb.
Roger. I've got a couple of 60-watt light bulbs with coax fittings on them that I use. I've got one 40-watt and a 60-watt I use for different commercial radios, and a 2-meter and 440.
Yeah, well, I didn't have dummy loads. I had to make one. Hey, what do I got around here I can use for a dummy load? And we recently, a couple of years ago, changed from electric to gas on our stove, and I decided to save a couple of burners. I thought I could use AC power or testing purposes. Anyway, they were in the junk box in the shed, and wow, it worked great. I kind of keep a lot of junk around. I'm trying to get rid of some of this stuff.
Roger. Now, listen, you would be a prime candidate for garbage cans. Garbage cans are the most amazing storage devices in the world, particularly those Rubbermaid or whatever, or even the $10 garbage cans at Walmart, Yeah, they will take a bunch of stuff and not leak. You can leave them outside, man. I'm up to 23, I think.
23 garbage cans full of good stuff.
Roger.
That's not a bad idea. I got like scrap metal and like old wires and motors and things. I throw them in this bucket, and the bucket's overflowing. I need a bigger. But if you get too big a can, I won't be able to move it. It's going to be 100 pounds of copper.
Well, I mean, you don't want to move it. I've got one garbage can that I use for my 10-foot pipes and my all kinds of metal stuff, mainly channel aluminum, and I've got some steel plates and stuff beside it. So I've got a kind of an area of spare metallic parts.
right. Well, yeah, I know what you mean. I got a bunch of copper pipe in the little shed behind the shop here. About, I don't know, a couple 100 feet of 3/4 inch copper pipe. But it's all kind of cruddy looking. You wouldn't want to probably use it for plumbing, but I thought it might be good for antennas. It's been sitting there for years and years and years. Copper pipe.
Roger. Now, I built Yagi antennas, 2 meter and 440, and my specialty is 8-foot 7-element 2 meter antenna. And I just go down to my friendly Home Depot, and they have a device in the fencing department. It's two 8-foot 1/4 inch pieces of steel, galvanized steel, zinc covered galvanized steel. And folks said, hey, you can't use steel to make an antenna. Well, I tell you, I have built antenna. All my antennas are zinc covered galvanized steel, 1/4 inch, and I have built, just to check it out, the same antenna out of copper, and there was not a dime's worth of difference between the performance.
Really? You made the antenna out of steel?
Absolutely, absolutely. 1/4 inch galvanized, zinc covered galvanized steel. And when I build them, I give them 7 coats of high gloss black paint, because when you cut that zinc covered galvanized steel into elements on either end, you have to definitely protect that, because you no longer have the zinc covering to keep rust from occurring. So I just cover the whole thing with seven coats of gloss black.
There you go. Well, yeah, you think about it, broadcast towers, you know, for TV and radio stations, they're made out of steel.
Roger, and in third world countries, they use coat hangers for elements.
Well, steel isn't that bad of a conductor. You'll get some loss, but it's minuscule, really, when you think about it. And it actually lowers the Q of the antenna.
Well, now I'm sitting here with a 6-position rotary switch. I have many Yagis, and like I say, for a while I had that one copper Yagi, and I could run through all 6. I could pick a target, and I've got 5 rotors, and I could orient the Yagis to the same target. And then with the 6-position rotary switch, I could go between them, A, B, C, D, and check sample 6 antennas in, probably less than a second. So, and I'm not listening for, I'm not actually looking for signal strength. I'm listening for the white noise of the signal from, say I pick a repeater and I'm listening to the squelch tail, and I can run through the 6 Yagis and within the time of a squelch tail, which is a second or second and a half, and just listening to the white noise and find the best one. Because after all, the main thing is the antenna. The best antenna is the one that gives you the signal with a minimum amount of noise.
Yeah, well, you don't want to have everything's going to get stronger, but hopefully, because your capture area is focused on the signal, you'll get less noise. But yeah, so this is a beam antenna for what, 2 meters?
2 meter version, and I use also an 8-foot 440 version with 20 elements. So my main antenna is stack 7s and stack 20s on the same crossboom. The stack 7s are on either end, and the stack 20s are spread across in the middle.
Okay. Well, you said you bought this metal, this galvanized metal at Home Depot. What was it called? And how big is it? I mean, what's the cross-sectional dimension?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not sure what they use it for, but it's essentially it's 2 8-foot long, 1/4 inch wide zinc covered galvanized steel pieces with cross members between them. So you have this one item that's got a 8-foot section on one and an 8-foot section on the other, and cross members between them. Well, I would come home and I would cut the cross sections out, and I've got a grinder, and I would grind the weld where the cross pieces were to where they weren't, you know, and the piece was just like two 8-foot 1/4-inch pieces of zinc-covered galvanized steel, and I'd make my elements out of that.
So, yeah, but you got to patch up those cuts, too, with some paint, right?
Well, the whole thing gets painted at the end. But, you know, the grinder is to take it down to where you can't even tell there was a weld there, just to physically get it in shape. And then, obviously, you give it 7 coats of gloss black at the end. These I'm using 1 by 1.5 inch wood 8-foot long sections for the boom. And it's unbelievable. You can go to Home Depot, and it'll take you maybe a half hour to find 5 or 6 true 1 by 1.5 inch 8-foot long you know, pieces of stock wood. But they're there. You know, you just have to be work on it to find them, Roger, because they do tend to want to warp in shipment primarily. But you know, when you find them, and then I've gone to a second 1 by 1.5 inch that affixes to the first one on the side, so you actually have 2 sections of 8-foot wood there. One, the grain is going parallel, horizontal, and then you tack this other piece to the side, you know, and so what happens is you stabilize the piece so it doesn't want it can't go droop, or it can't go drag, because the other piece is going the you know, along the side. I just had that problem on the 440s. They wanted to droop a little bit on the you know, on the ends, and of course obviously 440 you don't want that to happen, so this piece I tack along the side solves all that problem.
Yeah, that was quite an explanation. I really wasn't able to draw a clear picture in my mind what you're saying, but or whatever, sounds like it's working.
Roger. Well, if you just visualize a flat piece, 1.5 by 1 inch, and you're on the flat side, and you're drilling, you know, holes to put your elements, okay? But then, so you take another piece and then turn it up on its end, rather than being on the flat side, it's on its end, and then that affixes to the side of the flat piece. So it keeps it from being able to droop, you know, or even actually change in any way.
Yeah. Well, you probably have a picture of it on your website, right?
No, I don't. I did shoot some video. Matter of fact, if you go to that my Qso-Vlog page on YouTube, with a call letter search of Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor, I do have some footage of my antenna farm with the 5 rotors, 3 towers, 4 push-up pipes, you know, and then my 10-meter stuff. The full-wave loop antenna, 36-foot full-wave loop, vertically mounted on a rotor, then a 5/8 for 10, and a side-mounted quarter wave at about 35 foot off the tower.
Yeah, Jim, I'm having a little trouble because your signal's an S7 to an 8 here, and I have this heterodyne on frequency. I'm able to copy about 90%, but it's really hard to get all the details real clear right now.
Oh, Roger. Yeah, I didn't even hear anything. Must be a local situation there, because it's not showing up on the San Francisco SDR. Do you still have it?
Yeah, the heterodyne is moving up the band. I think it's related to one of my battery banks somehow. But it's right about 0 beat. But not only that, you're not really strong. You only have 7 to an S8 right now. Your signal was a little stronger earlier.
Oh, there's a candidate for an ARRL executive position.
Yeah, I got my notch filter on it. Kind of dulls out that heterodyne, but it also kind of dampens your audio.
I've been compromised before.
Yeah, you know, this part of the band is really noisy. I was thinking of changing it. Go moving to another frequency.
Roger, would you be going up towards 39?
Where?
Up towards 39?
Oh, no. Well, right now, I was just thinking maybe moving a couple kilohertz just to get away from this racket. Hold on a second. Let's go down to 3815. There's nobody there, and that noise will be going the other way. How about that?
3815?
Yeah, Roger.
All right, take me just a second to get my stuff together, Roger.
Yeah, Jim, we're going down 2 kilohertz.
Roger that, yeah. This thing, I had to forget what year it is, but it's one of the older computers. It is the oldest that I've got. I think it's a compact or something. I don't know, but anyway, it it's past its prime. It's hanging on as basically it's a slideshow computer. But on the absence of our other one being down and in the shop, it's also serving as the SDR jobber, and it doesn't like to do that, Roger.
Yeah, just too many things to do at once. You know, there's all this other stuff running in the background. You might have things running that you don't need running.
Oh man, it is. It is so needy. I can't even run security on it. I used to have Malwarebytes on it, but that Malwarebytes takes quite a bit of memory, Roger.
I didn't get all that.
I was just talking. It is so limpy. I can't even run Malwarebytes on it.
Stanley, real quick. You still hear me?
Yeah, Roger.
Alright, is it cutting in and out anymore? It's not the mic cord. I think it's the jack in the radio. I think I got a bad connection or something in the mic jack in the rig. So before I put it back together, I gotta just bend. Okay, now not cutting in and out?
Yeah, for the moment, it sounded good.
Alright, because I was wiggling the cord and I wasn't making it cut in and out, but when I wiggled the plug around into the radio, it cut in and out when I was watching it. So, alright, let me just take a look at it. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, go solder those. If it's a PC board mount, just resolder those connections.
Oh no, this is before PC board mount. This is chassis mount, standard three conductor 1/4-inch microphone jack. So. It's not hard to get to or anything. It might just have some oxidation or something on the contacts. Thanks, Stan. I'll talk to you in a couple.
Yeah, okay, I got it. You know what I've been doing with all my jacks? I've been taking this Snowlock special stuff and putting it on a Q-tip and just sticking them in on the jacks and giving everybody a little coat. It seems to help a lot.
That's exactly what I do. I got the same stuff on a little Q-tip, and I'm going to try that on this thing. It might just have, 40 years worth of corona on it.
WD-40 works wonders.
Use W708.
WD-40 works wonders.
What's that, Jim?
WD-40 works wonders for stuff like that.
Oh, well, it's relieves the residue, though. I guess the other stuff does, too. Yeah, WD-40. It's actually a moisture repellent.
Well, it's a great cleaner. I did use that all the time when we were doing video remote shoots. I would always WD-40 all the connections and never had a moment static.
Yeah, what did I do with mine? I keep losing stuff. I put it down somewhere and I forget where it is. Oh, here it is. I put it right here where I left it. It's called the reason I was looking for it is called No Aux ID A Special. It's looks kind of like almost like a grease or something, but it's seems to work really good on coaxial connectors.
Roger that. I remember, speaking of that jack that he was working on there, the 3-conductor jack, my first radio was given to me. I was getting ready to take my technician's license and looking around for radios, and this guy had a Drake TR4C for sale on the internet, and I just fell in love with it. But he never would return my call. I guess he sold it and didn't have time to talk after that. But anyway, so I took my test and passed, and as I was leaving, I just turned at the door and asked if anybody might know where I could get a TR4C, a Drake TR4C, and one of the engineers, the test engineers, said, I'll make you a deal you can't refuse. I've got one I'll give to you. And he did, and over a 3-day period we brought it up slow, and with I think we used 75-watt lights in series with the AC as opposed to a volt controller, and just brought it up that way. The second day we put two 75-watt light bulbs in parallel with each other in series with the AC, and the third day we used 3, and then we were ready to go. And in the between time, the receiver started working, and I could hear all kinds of skip coming on 10 meters, man. I'm just chomping at the bit to get going on that radio, and because all that skip, and I was wanting to work it. And so finally we just took all the lights out and ran the AC direct, and everything was fine. And I went to ready to do my thing, and I started to try to plug my mic in, and it turns out that Drake used a special military stereo mic plug, not a normal 1/4 inch. So here I am. I can't even. All this skip's going on, and I can't even get my mic plugged in to get going. So I said, heck with this. I went down to Radio Shack and got me a standard 1/4 inch stereo jack, and opened that radio up and took that military jack out of there and put the stereo 1/4 inch in there, and bingo, but I was in business, man.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah. Collins had a same deal on their radios. They had a 3/16 inch jack rather than a 1/4 inch one.
Roger. Yeah, that's what it was. It's a military thing,
Yeah.
But I had never suspected that would be different, and I went to plug my 1/4 inch mic jack in here, and I about died. All that skill, when you're anticipating, getting going on that radio and come up with a problem like that, it's just unbelievable.
Okay, this is WG6K for ID. I haven't done that for a while.
Kilo, Charlie Land, Victor, Kilo Victor, near Louisville, Kentucky.
And N6, DTR, Sacramento.
I'm getting some lightning crashes somewhere. I'm not sure exactly where it is.
Well, it's got to be near you, because it isn't near us.
Well, I'm copying San Francisco, so
Well, it's probably coming from near you. So, I mean, most of the lightning static we hear usually comes from the Midwest.
Roger. Well, I'm using the SDR, the San Francisco SDR, so maybe it is towards my side. I guess I don't know, but I'm copying San Francisco.
Yeah, Roger. Yeah, well, I'm not hearing. It's pretty quiet here tonight. Overall, let's see. I'm going to check my map real quick and see where the lightning is.
The only thing possibly wrong with that San Francisco SDR receiver is that you can't manually set the RF gain, and it keeps trying to compress, suck up, when there's no audio.
Oh, I think it should have a better AGC.
No, it's the San Francisco SDR that's doing it. It's set up for a fixed RF gain, and it's to me it's too hot. It's sucking up quite a bit.
Yeah, I guess they want to normalize all the signal strengths on the S meter. I don't know. Yeah, well, it takes a lot of computer processing to do all that. It's probably something they could do if they wanted.
Well, now some of them do have an adjustable RF gain in the SDR settings, that you can actually establish the gain factor, and those are neat because you can just pull them down, and that way you just put in the amount of gain that you want, and it doesn't suck up between the words or between transmissions.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not a perfect world, is it?
Well, this is true, but in the meantime, I'll take this. It's not perfect, but it works pretty good.
Yeah. Well, a while back they didn't even cover the lower part of 80 meters. It stopped at 3,800, but they added that recently, which is kind of nice. Now you can hear the guys down lower. They keep improving it.
Well, just them show off extra class guys. It's a problem for them. Us general class don't care about anything below 38.
Yeah, well, he used to hang out down in the extra part of the band. Quite a bit, in fact, for all the time, but a year or two ago. He wanted to be more inclusive.
Oh, so that is a frequency selective thing?
Say that again?
To be more inclusive, that is a frequency thing?
A frequency what?
You said you wanted to be more inclusive, and so you were moving your frequency because of that?
I moved to this part of the band, the general part, so everybody could be here.
Oh, roger. As opposed to being stashed away on one of those exclusive other, what? I forgot the rating. What is your rating now?
I'm having a little trouble right now. Stand by a second. I can't copy up. I gotta move something here.
The station, are you like in Kentucky?
Roger, Louisville. Just across the river from Louisville. I can see downtown from where I am, about 3 miles away.
Yeah, are you hearing us on your wire, like direct, or are you listening to us on that San Francisco SDR?
Listening on the San Francisco SDR, transmitting direct.
Are you like an amp over there?
Oh, well, I hope so. Yeah, it's a SB220.
Oh, nice. Oh, very good. I was just curious because you seem pretty far away for 75. You know, night type thing. Like it's like more like California guys. Yep, my name is Dana. Nice to meet you. Good evening. N6 DTR. I'm running a small amplifier too, 500 watts, and I'm on a antenna apartment dipole. Over.
I thought you were gonna say community dipole. I was gonna try to figure out how that worked.
Yeah, well, I'm hearing you. That's pretty good. All right. Over here to my little stool, N6 DTR. Somebody's asking a lot of questions, Sonny. Hey, what's going on?
What was the first part of your call? I got DTR.
Yeah, there was someone else in there who said, you're asking a lot of questions, Sonny. I'm like, copy.
It's November 6 DTR.
Roger. Now, November 6 DTR. What's your name?
My name is Dana. D-A-N-A. Over.
Roger, Dana. Sounded really good in that San Francisco SDR.
Yeah, and your name is Jim, J-I-M, right?
Roger that, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, copy. Thank you. N6 DTR, Sacramento, listening.
All right, Stanley. We're back. W70A, copying okay?
Yeah, you're loud and clear.
Regular radio now, so anyway, good to hear you.
Are you here in the station in here, Kentucky?
You know, I just flipped over. If he's copying, good evening to the Kentucky. I guess good morning to Kentucky then. This is W70A, Tom in Reno.
Roger, Tom. I got a perfect copy through the San Francisco SDR. Roger.
Roger. All right, sounding good from Kentucky. Good copy, probably a S7 or so, S8. All right, didn't mean to interrupt, guys. Just want to let you know, Stan, I'm back on there, and we'll be listening. I'm going to put a little deoxit on this mic connector on this old FT200 and see if we can fix her up.
Okay. Yeah, he's sounding good.
I wonder if WA6 DTV followed us.
He's looking for Jim?
Yeah, Roger. We did some frequency hopping there before we found this one.
Maybe he's working on something.
Yeah, we have similar backgrounds, even to the same, not necessarily same, but to the 24-track machines.
24-track machines.
In 24-track MCI studio recorders.
Yeah, man. That was the heyday of mechanical recording, huh?
Roger, and there are some groups that are going back to analog.
Well, it has a certain character. I mean, digital is okay for certain things, but it's almost like, you know, it's almost too perfect.
Roger. Well, it's on tape. You have a way of saturating that gives it a little different sound than digital. Roger.
Right. Yeah, you know, it's magnetic recording. I always thought was great. I don't know why they haven't come up with a better analog system. You know, I mean, digital analog magnetic tape that's more of like a hard drive. You know, we could have sections that are like
UA 6 Delta Tango Victor.
Well, there he is.
Yes. Who's looking for you?
Yeah, here I am.
What's happening? Where you been, man?
Where you been, man?
You know, I was upstairs, looking, you know, seeing to the pellet stove and a few things around the house.
Yeah, we'll let you slide for now. You don't have to be a dedicated amateur radio operator 24 hours a day.
Oh, no. That'd drive me crazy. Couple hours a night. 10 o'clock to maybe 2 in the morning, 2:30, that's enough.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm with you on that, like 10 to 2.
How are you tonight, Danny?
Hey, what's going on, Jim? All is well.
Anyway, so I had an MCI JH160, I think it was a JH16, 16 and 24 track heads. Then I had a Studer A80, same thing, 16 and 24 track heads. I sold the Studer to the drummer from Nirvana, who was starting up a band called the Foo Fighters. He couldn't live without it.
Roger, which one did you like best?
Yeah, he couldn't. I thought I had to take it to the dump. I had rented those machines from 1980 to, oh man, a lot of years. I made a lot of money on them. But then it was just sitting around the studio, and I thought, well, maybe it's time to bring it over to the dump. And I found this a used equipment dealer that I know somebody might want it. And it turned out the guy couldn't live without it. I got 10 grand for it.
God, Nirvana and the Foo Fighters, those are two popular.
Same guy, though, drummer. David Groom.
He was a drummer for both sides?
Right on.
Greetings. I have no idea what they do.
I've never heard the Foo Fighters, but I heard Nirvana.
Foo Fighters are on YouTube. They're good.
Is that Chris in there?
Hello, this is K6BBY. You guys are up higher frequency than usual.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some interference down there. Like, you know, some kind of birdie or something. Someone's bugging me.
Sound like some kind of CW stuff in there, but also some kind of video or picture information. I couldn't figure it out.
Well, it's not quieter here.
Sure, on the West Coast, guys, good.
I used to listen on this SDR.
Well, I mean, you guys are blasting it over here via radio.
Oh, yeah,
that's on radio. Yeah. The SDR thing works pretty good.
My 100 watts getting out all right?
Yeah, you're good. You're 15 over here. Stan's 1520. That Chris that just came in, I think he's a S9, and then the guy over there is like S6, and I'm at S4 noise.
Roger, so my signal is like a 6. I think we doubled. My signal is like a 6 over there. Apparently worse than a 6.
What's in Kentucky, Jim? What's DTV's signal strength like?
Oh, everybody's excellent through the San Francisco SDR.
Yeah, listening on the Half Moon Bay TV.
Oh yeah, right.
Cost cheating.
Well, I beg your pardon. I'm making the trip direct.
That's right.
Yeah, he's transmitting here.
Everybody can hear us, though.
Well, I can hear you, but it's like about a dB over my noise level.
Yeah, well, that lightning static is not far from you. It's a big blob of thunderstorms to the north of you.
Roger. I think it's always been that way. You guys coming back are quite low than me going that way. I don't know what it is, but you are, towards my noise level. That's why I'm using San Francisco.
Well, I'm hearing you about an S7 right now.
Yeah, I think we're probably reaching out of the perfect time for this frequency. I think between midnight and 2 it seems to be a real good time.
Yeah, it gets better after midnight.
You guys are all asking or better up in the Great White North.
All right.
Kentucky's a steady S7 into Reno. All right, W708 probably need to do that.
Kilo, Charlie 9 Victor, Kilo Victor.
Who is the station from the Great White North?
VE6XX.
Who's that? XX. Say your call again.
Oh, like you said, VK6XX.
No, I said Victor Echo 6XX.
Oh, okay. That's our Canadian friend from the Great White North.
That's the one. My name is Brian. Listening to you guys for a little while. And I was smiling when the man was talking about the 24-track tape recorder. And I opened the bottom drawer, and I have 3 packages of Webster recording wire in these things, never opened, for the old wire recorders that they used in the 30s and early 40s. High quality.
I used to have a wire recorder, a Webcore.
God, this is who made the, let's see, what does it say on the bottom of it? Webster Chicago recording wire, 1 hour this thing is, and that's, 2.5 inches in diameter.
Roger, Roger. And when you make a splice, you just tie the wires together, cut off a little bit of the exhaust, and there you go.
Yeah, oh yeah. I can't even remember how I came by these things, but I got 1, 2, 3. I got 3 packages of it that have never been opened. Why I haven't thrown it in the dump, I don't know.
Well,
It's
probably valuable. Somebody's looking for that.
Oh, I don't think so. I think that the guys that collect wire recorders, and there are a few of them. There was a guy down in Spokane, Washington, who's now a silent key, and I think he had 8 or 10 of the damn things, and they all worked perfectly. They were less than high fidelity.
Oh yeah, right. But they like to collect stuff.
When I got my Webcore, it was just the deck. I didn't get the electronics. I don't know what happened, but I just had the deck. And so I hooked up a amplifier that I could play back, but it was when I tried to record, it was distorted, and what it was, I had no bias on the head, so I hooked up a battery in series with the audio that I was feeding the head, and gosh, things improved drastically.
Yeah, I don't know how much bias current those things would run on the heads. I'm certainly not an expert on audio or video recorders. Not my field. Radio communications is my field, but we used to use recorders for monitoring things, but they were all tape drives, of course, even 50 years ago.
Roger. Well, with a wire recorder, I don't think things are exactly critical, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So if the bias current varied by plus or minus 20%, it probably wasn't the end of the world.
Yeah, at least 1,000 volts one way or the other.
I think I had a Webster electric wire recorder when I was a kid. I think they're the only ones that made them that I remember. It was a big old box.
I couldn't tell you how many people made them. I think there was more than one manufacturer, but I think that Webster, what the hell do they call themselves? I have to look at the package again. They had a name for the company. Where? No, just Webster on the thing. I think that they addressed the low-end market, the home market, and I think that's probably where they're the best known.
Yeah, mine was Webster Electric, and I got mine from an old police department back as a kid. And actually, no, I take that back. It was a fire department that they used it for, I don't know, whatever. But yeah, it was a big old, yeah, probably from the 30s. Anyway, brought back some memories there. Wire recorder. I haven't thought of that in a long time.
I wouldn't have thought about it if one of the fellows hadn't been mentioning this 24-track head on a broadcast studio recorder, and I thought, recorders. I opened my bottom drawer and I brought out this package of wire thing. If I knew anybody that had a recorder and they wanted the wire, I would happily put it into their hands. It would be a gift.
Roger. Now, you had to be very careful with that wire. You had to be very careful, handle it very carefully, because it would slice your finger off.
That's something. I bet there's somebody out there, somebody somewhere probably still has a couple wire recorders.
I know there's collectors around, but I think there's probably a lot of that stuff floating around. Or it may have reached the point where everybody is throwing it in the dump. I don't know, but I may do that. There's just 2 or 3 swap nets that I know, Pacific Northwest and here in Western Canada, and I may put it on there because if anybody wants it, it's theirs.
Yeah, interesting museum piece, but certainly not a functional tool anymore, like those tape recorders that some people actually pursue for modern recordings.
Oh, I still use reel-to-reel to this day, a lot.
I have a reel-to-reel. I use it mostly for offloading old recordings. I haven't recorded anything on it in a long time, but it's hard to get good tape.
Yeah, I haven't either. I use it for transcribing the digital or, another format as a player. I haven't recorded on mine in a long time.
Yeah, you got to be careful. Stay away from, well, I guess MPEX is out of business, but 456, man, that's, it's a great tape. It gives you about 8 dB hotter print level than anything else, but after 8 years, it turns to SOG.
It's amazing. I've got pre-recorded, fact reel-to-reels, albums back from the 60s and the 50s, and the darn things still play the same as they did the day they were. They always said they degrade over years, but mine still play good.
Well, the secret there is oxide, and how the oxide is adhered to the mylar or whatever, the base. And some of that 1 mil stuff is, 50 years old, 60 years old, still works beautiful, but when they started packing more oxide onto it, particularly with 456, over a period of time, like 8 years, it does turn to a soggy mess that you have to actually put in the oven before you can use it.
That was a perfect double.
That was a double.
Sorry?
They talked almost identically at the same time.
Similar minds.
Drum they used.
I was just talking about 456, MPEX 456, which is a heavier oxide tape. And I hope they're out of business now, because they did a tremendous injustice to the recording industry in that 456 was a great tape when it was new, but add some years, 8 years or so, and you have to put it in the oven to stabilize it before you play it.
Because it comes up.
It just oozes, and the scrape gut clutter filter in the deck just gets clogged with it, and if you stop, then all that clog is left deposited on the tape at that point. So when next time you play it, you run into that clog.
How long do you bake it in the oven for?
There is a formula. I'm sure it's on the internet, and it's not a not a real hot temperature as such, but there is a baking just like you would bake a ham. There is a formula for it.
You bake it until it stops outgassing.
I have some of that tape here, but I got some of that really old tape, from the 70s and 60s.
Yeah, that doesn't have the problem.
That stuff's indestructible.
Yeah, the stuff that you have to bake, I baked it. I think it's like 115 degrees or something. And you can do it in the oven, but you want to keep it until it'll make a lot of smell at first, and then once it stops outgassing, then you're okay. It usually takes, I forget how many hours. A lot of hours, I think. Maybe only 3, but I forget. It's been years since I did that.
Yeah, I would rather outgas the designer of the tape.
What?
I said I would rather outgas the designer of the tape, with a bullet.
Yeah, you outgas the liquid that's in there.
Yeah, I would be outgassing the guy that made the tape in the first place. I mean, that's terrible. Of course, I guess they didn't know what was going to happen down the road, but somebody should have had a better idea,
Yeah, no, they didn't know.
Was it better to do it in an electric oven or a gas oven?
Probably, I don't know, I did it in electric.
Well, might demagnetize it. You don't want to put it anywhere near the heater.
Oh, but it's not that hot either. I mean, it's a little above room temperature.
Probably put it in my fruit dehydrator.
I don't know what that goes to.
Not very high.
Yeah, I think it's like a Fahrenheit, like maybe it was like 120, 125, maybe 115.
Yeah.
It just took a while.
I have an old TX tape recorder.
Yeah, me too.
That problem with that tape affected a lot of folks. Even the Library of Congress had, a lot of their stock was involved with that tape.
What was that, Jim?
I was just saying the Library of Congress, which is responsible for maintaining a representation of a lot of stuff, that's been released in the country. A lot of great recordings had a major problem with 456. Well, I'm starting to catch some adjacent channel QRM a little bit there on the Half Moon SDR.
Yeah. There's something in there also. It sounds like they're below us. It might be those guys on 22.
Yeah, I hear them too. I'll have to go look. I think I've got 30 reels at F456 Ampex, 10.5-inch, quarter-inch tape. I recorded years and years ago. I recorded stuff off it. Last time I played them, they played fine. So if there's a problem with it, I guess I'll be surprised next time I use them.
Roger. Now 406 did not have the problem. It was only the very densely packed 456 that really had the problem.
Yeah, and I think that's what I've got is 456. I'm pretty sure. I'll have to look. I'm glad for the heads up, though.
So how do you 456 or whatever?
Well, mine's on the box when I bought them. I bought them new, in the factory box that says Ampex 456.
Okay.
Back in Phoenix in a guitar shop, 30 years ago or so, I bought 20 or 30 boxes of it.
That stuff, a quarter-inch got up to like $100 and something bucks a reel. Damn,
that's pretty good. I think I paid $15 back then.
Roger. And then a 2-inch, that was, I think that was $250.
I got a bunch of reels of tape, and they're all pretty well used, but they still play. But they're all full of stuff. You know, I'd have to go through. You know, I wouldn't want to erase anything. Well,
that's what I use my reel-to-reel for anymore, Stan. Once in a while, I'll find an old couple tapes recorded God knows when, and I just use it to, you know, transcribe it digital, you know, digitize it so it doesn't get, you know, ruined or lost or whatever.
Yeah. Well, same thing. I've gone through a bunch of these tapes, and I've picked out certain things that I wanted, and I just put them back in the box and back in the stack. But they still play good, you know. Some of these tapes are 40 years old, and they sound just like they did when I recorded them.
Yeah, I've got the same thing. I mean, I've got some old studio radio station tapes from the 70s and 60s, and they still, you know, 15 IPS half tracks and stuff, and they still play wonderful.
Oh, yeah, those speeds, they should sound good.
I'll tell you what you can do to test it out. Take a reel and put it in your machine. Hit fast forward down to about the middle of the reel, and then stop and take a look on your lifter, your head lifter, and see if you have a big bunch of ooze and goos on that lifter leg.
Yeah, and if you do, you got the new tape.
As opposed to, you know, actually tracking it on your and getting it on your head, just you just get it on your lifter.
Yeah.
Well, Stan, we're going to jump out of here, man. It's starting to fall asleep. We want to say threes to everybody on the frequency, and we have enjoyed it. Gosh, we shall return to California at our soonest opportunity. Roger, Roger.
Roger, Roger. Stuff that comes off the tape looks like earwax.
Yeah, dirty earwax. Globby earwax.
Yeah, I just remember.
Yeah, he runs the tape through. He'll coat a rag like new finish or something like a car wax reconditioner or something, and he runs it through that, and he swears that it reconditions the tape. I have never tried it, but I've talked to him a bunch of times about it, and he swears by it.
It doesn't. It does not. It just, you know, it collects on your lifter there, or on your heads if you're running through the heads.
He's an audio engineer, so I guess he knows what he's doing, but never tried it, Stanley.
Yeah.
Catch you guys later, threes. Have a good night. This is Kilo Charlie 9, Victor, Kilo Victor, New Louisville. Will be clear.
Yeah, good night, Jim. Yeah, you're starting to drop down here.
Yeah, good night, Jim. Good to meet your acquaintance, 70A in Reno. And I'm going to go raid the box up there, see if I can find something to snack on. Be back.
Yeah, grilled cheese sandwich sounds good to me.